We've been waiting for it, and it's finally gonna happen this Saturday at the Madison Square Garden in New York City. Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz will finally fight in the main event of UFC 244 for the BMF title. It is one of the most anticipated fights this year, if not ever, as two fan favorites, two of the most beloved combat sports athletes ever will fight in one of the most explosive style matchup we've seen. Two of the baddest guys in the sports, two of the meanest guys in the sports, two of the hitters, the BMFers, Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal. It is gonna be an awesome fight, and we know that it's not gonna be a recurring thing. We know that this BMF title is a one-off. There will not be a BMF division. It will not be defended after that fight. But let's just dream today. Let's just have some fun and try to see who would be the members of that BMF division, that fictional division, if it was to ever happen sometimes. So we're trying to find out today who would be the top 10 fighters of the BMF division in MMA. So we're looking at guys who will fight anybody, anywhere, at any time, and who are always in exciting matchups. We're not looking at grinding wrestlers who try to grab you and hug you against the cage or lay and prey on you. We don't want none of that boring stuff. We only want that exciting stuff, the guys that do not give a single F about anything. And it helps for them to have weird losses on their records, as we've been looking at Diaz and Masvidal. They both have double-digit losses on their record, and that's because they lost many weird split decisions to wrestlers, to people who are not willing to fight that BMF style of fight against them. And I think that's a criteria that helps. But most importantly, we want people that do not give a F about anything, that will fight anywhere, at any time, anybody who and they will just come and try to knock people out and submit guys with the weirdest stuff we've seen. So the BMF division, we're trying to establish who would be the top 10 contenders. And before we get started, I just want to say Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, of course, will not be part of the list today because they're fighting for the inaugural title. They are, of course, the top 1 and 2 fighters in that BMF division at the moment, so we'll not include them in that list. We'll look at 10 other fighters, but just keep an eye that they would definitely be there if that division was to exist. Another guy that I'll exclude from that list is Nick Diaz. I want active fighters. I want guys that are fighting and that have been fighting for the 2 past years, let's say it, even if they only fought once. That has not been the case for Nick Diaz. We have not seen him fight for a long time. He's not retired, but he's an inactive fighter. He's not a guy that is fighting nowadays, so he's not on the list. But just know that, like, he's the OG BMFer. He's probably the reason why all of that stuff exists. So if there was a BMF Hall of Fame, it would be like the first ballot member. It probably one of the only inductees in that Hall of Fame at that moment. So all of this is possible because of Nick Diaz. So he's not on the list, but he's probably the reason for the list. Now that we've established what a BMF is, I think we're ready to get going for that list, that top 10 BMFers who would be the top 10 of the BMF division in MMA. But before we get started, there was too many guys. I just couldn't narrow it down to 10 people, so I've got some honorable mentions, some guys that I didn't put in my top 10 but would probably deserve it. And there they are. We've got the Diamond Dustin Poirier, the Korean Zombie Chan Sung Jung, Mark Hunt, the featherweight champion of the UFC Max Holloway, and finally Conor McGregor. And I want to just say a quick word about Conor. Of course, he would 100% have been included on the list if we were looking at his prior run, when he came in and he just tore through the featherweight division and he was willing to fight anybody at any time. Even if a fight fell out, he was willing to fight any replacement. He didn't care. But nowadays, now that he's rich, now that he's tasted success, he does not fight anybody at any time. He's become one of the pickiest fighters in his matchup. So back in the days, he would 100% have been a BMFer and even highly ranked on that list. But nowadays, he's not really fighting anymore. So I still give him an honorable mention for like the work he's put in the past. But nowadays, I don't think we can qualify Conor McGregor as somebody who can be in that division. Let's get going with the top 10 now, and at number 10 we've got the natural born killer Carlos Condit. He is one of the most beloved action fighter ever. This guy gives no F's about wrestling, gives no F's about the scoring system whatsoever. He just comes in and free flows in that fight. He is landing hella volume, he throws everything at his opponents, and even if he gets taken down, which happens every time because he just does not wrestle, he just gets on his back and throws the weirdest submissions you've seen. He's got one of the most aggressive guards we have seen in MMA, and that often helps him just put his opponent away by submission or create place to stand up and just continue his absolute wonderful work on the feet. So he's a crazy BMFer. He's one of the most epic fighters we've seen in MMA, and he deserves his place at number 10 of the BMF rankings. At number 9, we've got the female BMFer champ Amanda Nunes. I couldn't even find a bloody picture of her because she just destroys everybody she fights, man. She never gets damaged, but her style is so crazy, man. She runs after people, she throws them bungalows. She's got one of the most exciting fights we've seen, and she's not scared of anybody, man. I've never seen a person be that not scared of Chris Cyborg when she fought her. She just took everything Cyborg had to offer and threw back some even bigger shots and knocked her out in like 50 seconds. She is the ultimate badass female fighter, Amanda Nunes. I got her at number 9 on the BMF rankings. At number 8, we've got the immortal Matt Brown. He's a real crazy MFer, man. That guy just loves to tear people up, man. He's crazy. He takes pleasure in inflicting pain to his opponent. He's one of the most prolific clinch fighters we've seen, because once you clinch with him, he just elbows you in the face and knees you all over. He's crazy as hell, and maybe not the most intelligent thing he says, but one of the things that surely qualifies him for a BMF spot is the time he said that he would rather see the female fighters just fight topless. That's maybe not the most sensitive comments you can make, but that surely shows you the mind state of that guy. He's just crazy, man. He's just a crazy old school BMF guy, and he deserves his place on that list for sure. At number 7, we're going new school. Platinum Mike Perry, the new age BMFer, man. That guy has not been here for a while, but he's already established himself as one of the craziest guys we've seen. His demeanor is so weird. The guy is basically a living meme, but he's crazy in the cage. We gotta give him what we gotta give him. He may be losing often, but he's always trying. He pushes everybody to the limits, even when he's fighting guys out of his league, and he can get his whole face broke. It just doesn't matter to him. You can't knock him out. He's got one of the craziest chins in MMA. He hits hard, and that's basically the only thing he wants to do. Take your punches and hit you harder. He's a crazy one. He's a new age BMFer, and within the newest fighters, he is by far the guy who deserves this place on the list the most. So that's why he's there at number 7 of the BMF rankings, Platinum Mike Perry. At number 6, Lil Hidden Jeremy Stephens. That guy is legendary, man. He's been there for so long, and he has hella UFC fights, like more than 30 UFC fights, and he's got as many losses as wins in the UFC, but he's headlining every time against the baddest guys in this division, and each and every time it becomes a war. Every time you get into a fight with Jeremy Stephens, he pushes you, he forces you to get into a brawl, and he out-brawls people a lot of the time, and even when he loses, it's always wars, it's always exciting matchups, and this guy really doesn't care. Just got a whole finger stuck into his eye, man. He wore a bandage and stuff over his eye after the fight, but less than a month later he was rebooked to face Yair, and they put on one of the craziest fights we've seen this year. So that's the Jeremy Stephens persona. Even if he's hurt, even if he's not 100%, he will go there and he will fight and he will try to take your head off, and that's why he deserves his place as the number 6 ranked BMFer in MMA. Let's go for the top 5. It's getting exciting because at number 5 we've got Justin Gaethje. Each and every one of his fights are one of the best fights you have seen in your life. That's basically it. This guy is absolutely insane. He's the brawler of all brawlers, and he's good at it, man. This guy has an amazing chin. He takes all your punishment and just throws harder in return. And what really makes him a BMFer is that on that list he's probably the best wrestler. This guy has got legit wrestling credentials, but he just never uses it. He finds it boring, as many of the fans finds it boring, a guy who's just trying to wrestle and control people. So he just does not use his wrestling. If he used it, he could be a world champion, he could be one of the greatest fighters we've seen, but he'll just accept to just stay a top 5 fighter, probably never win the belt, but put on some of the most exciting fights we have seen in our lives. That's why he's at number 5 of the BMF rankings, Justin the Highlight Gaethje. At number 4, he is the dream, he is the nightmare, he is the craziest guy out there, Diego Sanchez, OG BMFer, the only guy from the first season of The Ultimate Fighter to still fight. And man, this guy is like legit insane. He probably drinks his own blood for breakfast, man. And it's not easy to make him bleed too. He's so scarred up that you just gotta look at him and he's busted wide open, bleeding all over the place and running after you, screaming yes, yes, and just trying to brawl against you. And man, he's insane. If you've seen one Diego Sanchez fight, you know why I've put him on that list, so I don't think I gotta elaborate for 20 minutes. Number 4, BMFer, the OG Diego Sanchez. At number 3, it is Ruthless Robbie Lawler. He was a must for that list. This guy is one of the most epic fighters we have seen ever, man. He's been fighting for a while. He's fought Nate Diaz like 10, 12, 15 years ago. I don't even know, man. He's been in there for so long. He's been putting on some of the greatest performances. Some of the greatest moments in the history of MMA were generated by Robbie Lawler, man. The time he and Rory McDonald just stared at each other and just spit blood, and his lip was all busted up and broken. He looked like the Joker in that fight. He looked like an evil genius who just like made his opponent crumble. And not, he didn't make Rory crumble with a huge blow. He made it crumble like out of pure pain and damage sustained. That was one of the craziest moments we've seen in the sports, and Robbie Lawler is at the origin of many of these moments. And he also has the normal BMF trait of just like getting real discouraged when he's fighting wrestlers. Sometimes you just see Robbie Lawler get taken down many times and you look at his face and you see that he doesn't want to be there. He just don't want to be involved in a boring matchup, and that's one thing that BMFers do. They don't like when they get wrestled a lot, so that makes him even a better contender for that list, and probably a reason why he's at number 3, Ruthless Robbie Lawler. At number 2 is El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson, man, the craziest guy in the game by far. This guy is legit crazy. If you've seen his training regimen that he posts on social media, it is some of the most insane stuff you will ever see. And this guy, man, I don't even know how to qualify him. He's just legit insane. He is probably one of the only guys that will have as much fun getting his ass whooped than whooping someone's ass. Like, it's not the type of guy that will get broken because he's been beaten too much. The more you beat him, the more chance you give him to just catch you in something and beat you badly. Because if you've seen his last opponent, no one of them left that fight unscathed, man. Their faces were all busted up and crazy stuff, man. This guy is legit insane, and he deserves his place at the top of these BMF rankings. I got him at number 2, and I think it's well deserved. He's unbeaten for a while. He's one of the most elite fighters too on that list. Was beaten the most high caliber of opponents, and he's done that by being exciting and by being one of the most memorable fighters we've seen. So Tony Ferguson is the 2nd ranked BMFer on that list. And at number 1, it was a must, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. He is the ultimate BMF. He would fight 20 times a year if he was allowed, and between these fights he's not spending time like to rest and to do stuff. He's literally risking his life at every moment. He's diving in the ocean in caves, he's doing ski, wakeboard, surf, anything that can be real dangerous. Cowboy is basically doing it, and he's doing it like 3 days before his fight. This guy is absolutely insane. He is the ultimate BMFer, the ultimate action fighter who could basically fight on every UFC card of the year if he was allowed to. He's not allowed to because, man, that would be devastating for his body the way. But if that BMF division was ever to be created without Nate Diaz or without Jorge Masvidal, Donald Cowboy Cerrone would probably have been the guy that would have originated it. So he's got to be number one. He is the ultimate BMF in the UFC. Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And that concludes the list, man. We've just established the top 10 of the BMF division, that fictional division that we wish that would exist, because just look at the names on that and imagine the matchups that could be created there. That would be absolutely awesome. So I thank you a lot for watching that list. Leave me a like if you liked it. Leave me a comment to tell me who have I missed. What would be your top 10 BMFers in the sport? What should I do next for top 10s? Two, I just wanted to address it. You may have seen that this video is in English. You know, the channel is bilingual. MMA Talk is bilingual. The podcast Fabercast is bilingual. Most of my videos, the previews and stuff, I do them in French. So I thought that I needed to put out some more content for our English listeners and our English viewers, either on YouTube or Facebook, where I get most of my views on Facebook. So thanks a lot for everybody, and for my French people, it's top 10 list, man. I guess you can pretty much figure out what I've said, even if you don't really understand what I've said. And if you don't understand, man, just learn English. It's not that tough. So that's my English content, and from now on, the top 10s that I will do will most likely be in English. So thank you a lot for that. Before I leave you, I gotta give a shout out to my boy Charles White Beats. I recommend that you follow him on Instagram and on YouTube. He is producing beats and I'll be putting his music on my videos. Thanks a lot to my man Charles White Beats for that, and I recommend that you follow him on Instagram and on YouTube. So there you have it. You can follow me too at MMA Talk on YouTube, MMA Talk on Facebook, the MMA Talk on Instagram, and _MMA Talk on Twitter. Go visit MMAtalk.ca too, and man, we'll speak next time. Thanks for listening.